Jared Wilson's family has farmed this Missouri dirt for 7 generations. Today, for the first time in 100 years, the problem isn't weather or soil. His tractor just stopped in the middle of the row, throwing an error code that means nothing to him. The engine's been throttled down on purpose, and while he waits on hold with the dealership, his soybeans split open and rain into dirt he can't get back.
So while waiting on them, I had soybeans pods that were splitting open and my product was falling on the ground, right? I can't recover that.
He paid 6 figures for this machine, and right now, he can't touch it. So, when did buying something stop meaning you actually own it? As a kid, Jared used to ride along with his dad to the John Deere dealership down the road, and if something was wrong with the equipment, you drove over, you talked to the guy who owned the place, and he fixed it or he explained why he couldn't. Back then, tractors were mechanical. You touch something, it pulls a cable or pushes a rod, and something else moves. Simple, physical, direct. Today's tractors don't work like that. They're basically giant computers on wheels. When you move a lever, you're not pulling a cable anymore. You're sending a message to a computer, and the computer decides if it wants to listen. That's where derating comes in. If a sensor fails, say something on the emission system, the software doesn't just flag it. It throttles the engine down so far the tractor becomes useless. Sometimes that's a real safety call, but the error code Jared got didn't explain what triggered it, and it definitely didn't offer a fix. Here's what used to make that survivable. If Jared had a problem, he had options: the dealership or an independent repair guy down the road, and competition kept everybody honest. If the dealer treated you badly, you took your business elsewhere next season, and he knew it. But this time, he needed a special tool just to find out what was wrong, and he didn't own one. He couldn't even go buy one. So it wasn't a choice between fixing it himself or paying someone else. There was only one option: wait for the one guy allowed to plug into his own machine, or don't harvest. Look around your own house for a second. Smart thermostat, smart fridge, smart TV, your phone, your car, maybe a robot vacuum. Here's the one that'll make you mad. Printer ink per gallon costs more than almost anything else you're legally allowed to buy. Not because ink is expensive to make, because the printer's been designed to reject the cheap stuff. Cory Doctorow, the writer who spent years covering this, says it straight. The printer doesn't care if the cartridge works fine. It only cares if it's theirs. You're not paying for pigment, you're paying for permission. Take parts pairing. It's the same trick as the printer, just wearing a bigger costume. Back in 1970, a bolt was a bolt. You'd walk into any hardware store in America, grab one off the shelf, thread it in, and it worked. Nobody asked where you bought it. Nobody cared who made it. 50 years later, that same piece of metal is like a traveler at a border crossing. It shows up at the checkpoint, fits perfectly, works fine, and the tractor's computer still stops it at the gate and demands to see its ID. If that ID doesn't have the right company logo on it, the whole machine refuses to work. Your phone runs the exact same checkpoint. Crack your screen, put in a replacement that isn't Apple approved, and the phone still turns on, still works, except now it nags you with a warning every time you unlock it, because the glass and the battery inside never shook hands with the software. Doctorow has a name for the whole pattern: enshittification. It goes in 3 stages. First, a company makes a product genuinely good enough that you buy in and build your life around it. Then, once you're stuck, once it's too expensive or too hard to leave, they start closing the exits. Break something you already paid for just to fix it, and the law doesn't call you a tinkerer. It calls you a felon. 5 years in prison. A $500,000 fine. Nobody wrote that rule with tractors in mind. Back in 1998, Congress passed the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, and the picture in every lawmaker's head was some teenager burning a CD in his bedroom. Buried inside that law, Section 1201 says breaking a digital lock is a crime, plain and simple. Nobody in that room was picturing a $400,000 tractor sitting dead in a Missouri field. But today, that same forgotten rule protects the software locked inside Jared's tractor. So a gray market grew up around it. Independent repair guys started running cracked John Deere software off laptops shipped in from China, plugged into the machine quietly, hoping nobody asked questions. There are secret Facebook groups now too, farmers trading that same cracked firmware back and forth like it's contraband, because the official channel left them no other way in. Picture it, A guy in a barn past midnight, running a cracked operating system on a $400,000 tractor, praying it doesn't glitch mid-repair. Jared won't touch it himself because if that hacked software fails on his machine, no dealership will help, no warranty covers it, and he's completely on his own. Now stretch the same problem onto something that can't wait a day or two for a technician. Powered wheelchairs run on the same kind of locked-down software. So do ventilators. Picture someone stuck in a hallway because a software handshake failed, the chair frozen mid-turn, waiting on a technician who's 3 days out. For Jared, a broken tractor means lost revenue. For someone whose wheelchair throws that same kind of error, this stops being a money problem and turns into something closer to survival. That's what's pushed the fight into actual law, and it's starting to work. Picture Jared staring at a screen that used to just say, "Error," now reading an actual sentence. Sensor failure, emissions valve, code 4471. Under pressure from lawsuits and new right-to-repair laws spreading across states and overseas, John Deere released diagnostic tools that let farmers decode those messages themselves and, in some cases, override a derate without waiting for a technician. That sounds like the story ending well. It didn't. In April 2026, John Deere agreed to pay $99 million to settle a class action lawsuit over repair restrictions, and Jared Wilson was one of the farmers in that suit. Here's the catch nobody puts on the press release. Almost none of these right-to-repair laws touch parts pairing. So you can win the legal right to repair your own tractor and still lose the right to use whatever replacement part you want, because the software will still reject it. You get the toolbox, they keep the lock. It happened because the moment software got added, it gave a company a permanent wire straight into a product they'd already sold and been paid for in full. So this was never really about ownership disappearing. It's about the fact that you don't own your stuff anymore. You're just renting it, and nobody sent you the lease. A landlord you never met controls the thermostat in your own house, the ink in your own printer, the horsepower in your own tractor, and he can change the terms whenever he wants because you never actually left his property. Jared still farms that same dirt his family worked for 7 generations. He just doesn't fully own what he farms it with anymore. If you want more stories about the hidden design choices running your life, subscribe.